Dr. Phil.
You said never will you plead guilty, but then you did.
Millions watched as Michael Peterson was convicted of manslaughter in the staircase. Now,
did the cameras affect you? When I watched you in the documentary, I saw a lot of lie behavior, answering questions that weren't asked, never emoting about your wife. You were joking with the lawyers. And I'm thinking, this is so inappropriate.
Explosive details.
You knew the editor of this documentary really well. In fact, you dated the editor.
You haven't heard.
My attorney now believes the most plausible explanation for Kathleen's death is
the staircase mystery. Innocent, or did a murderer walk free?
Today, we're back with part 2 of our interview with Michael Peterson. The mysterious death of Kathleen Peterson, found dead at the bottom of her mansion staircase, became a notorious murder trial with her husband, Michael Peterson, at the center of it all. The circumstances of Kathleen's death were so bizarre, they were almost unbelievable. Investigators said the sheer amount of blood was far too much for a fall down the stairs. After Kathleen's death, Michael's secrets started to come to light. He was secretly bisexual, and the most shocking twist of all, another woman close to Michael was also found dead at the bottom of the stairs years before. For years, people have been split. Was an innocent man sent to prison? Or did Michael Peterson murder his wife and try to make it look like an accident?
It was here where Michael Peterson's life took a turn more dramatic than any fiction he's ever written.
911, where's your emergency? My wife had an accident. She's still breathing. What kind of accident? Still downstairs.
His wife, Kathleen, is dead, lying at the bottom of a back staircase inside the couple's mansion. In 2003, a Durham jury convicted Mike Peterson of first-degree murder in one of the longest trials in North Carolina history.
Michael was found guilty of murder and sentenced to life in prison. But then, he got a chance for a new trial.
I have waited over 8 years. 2,988 days, as a matter of fact. I want to thank Judge Hudson for giving me that opportunity so that I can vindicate myself and prove my innocence.
Mike Peterson will not spend another day in prison. He will enter an Alford plea for voluntary manslaughter, and the case will be closed.
Well, yesterday, we spoke to the man behind the staircase. Why did they convict you?
convicted me because of blood. They convicted me because of bisexuality.
Wolgamott met Mike Peterson over the internet. He told the jury Peterson agreed to pay him for sex.
Pretty scandalous emails between you and this male escort, Brad, got out there. Do you think that prejudiced the jury?
Oh, God, Lord, did it.
I have never seen that much blood from somebody falling down the stairs.
Look at that picture. That's too much blood, and everybody would agree, and I can't deny that.
This was not the first person that you cared about that died at the bottom of the stairway.
Elizabeth Ratliff died nearly 20 years ago in Germany.
The pathologist said she died of a stroke.
However, the new autopsy finds several head gashes and concludes she was murdered.
They're at the bottom of the stairs, so therefore it's got to be a serial killing.
They decide now that she was murdered. It was blunt force trauma, and there were head lacerations, just as they decided with Kathleen. Looks bad for you.
Oh, it looked terrible. Absolutely.
The police said it could have been a motive. 2 women dead, gay porn. Later, it was determined they had found what they said was the murder weapon. The theory was that you bludgeoned her to death with this blowpoke and then disappeared it. This all links up in their theory, because that's how the blood gets dried, because you're busy disappearing the murder weapon. Did you kill your wife? And just when you think it couldn't get any more shocking, well, it does. Did you kill your wife?
No.
Did you cause her death?
No.
Did you want her dead?
No. We would be together. My God, I would be 10 years older than she is, and I'm now 70 5 and she'd be 65. We would be having this wonderful life. This is what we saw. This is what we both wanted. This is what I would like to have. No.
You're wearing a wedding ring.
Right.
Is that the ring that you put on when you married Kathleen?
Second one. The first one I lost in the shower, went down the drain. And this is the second one I got. And never, no, why would you take it off? I mean, I don't understand that.
There have been other theories about what happened to her, all the way to including an owl.
Correct. Famous
all kinds
owl.
of theories.
Right. There are owls in the neighborhood, and my neighbor, Larry Pollard, who's this, who is an attorney, he's the first one who made that connection.
I was aware of the fact that we have birds there. I have seen these birds, and I have felt a duty and a responsibility to bring this forward to the authorities for them to look at it, hopefully give it a serious consideration.
He saw the lacerations, and he said, it's owl talons. And there is this photograph, but they have Kathleen's skull with the lacerations, and superimposed over that are owl talons. And it's just stunning to see that. Whether or not that did it, I don't know.
We want to have this case reopened and to have the feather and other forensic evidence re-examined and looked at to determine for certain whether or not an owl struck Mrs. Peterson's head that evening, and that she then ran inside the house, down the corridor, and under influence of Valium and Flexreal, etc., that she fainted into the bottom of the staircase there.
This was at Christmas time, and Kathleen and I had set up, the tree was getting ready, and we were going to finish the decorating, and we had these balsa wood deer that we always put out in the driveway. And when Kathleen came in, it's very conceivable that she'd take the balsa wood deer were right out there in the hallway, that she could have gone out, put them out there, because they were out there in the next morning, because the cops have the crime scene tape all over it. And we didn't put them up. So they think, well, Kathleen might have gone out there.
She was out there.
She was a dynamo. I'm going to put them out there, then I'm going to go to bed. And that's what the theory is on the owl. And they are vicious raptors. And they want to swoop down, hit her, she runs into the house, and that's what happens.
And they're known to dive bomb people, no question about that. So she might have gotten hit.
Correct.
There, and then gone up and then fallen.
This is what my attorney, this is what David now believes. He said the most plausible explanation for Kathleen's death is the owl theory,
really?
In which she put that up there. The owl hit her, smacked her. She runs in the house. There's blood a couple of places where on the door handles, and then she runs in.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. Plausible, yes.
In the beginning, Kathleen's daughter, Caitlin, supported you.
Yes.
Was she the family spokesperson at first?
And she was. In fact, what happened when David, my attorney, and Ron Garrett, the PI, and Tom Maher, the other attorney, they interviewed my kids, they interviewed everybody. And Tom and David said, Mike, you got a real problem. And I said, what? Caitlin. This is my stepdaughter. And I said, what? She is so on your side. She is so in favor of you. They're going to do everything they can to turn her. And if she falls, that's it.
What made her turn?
I think it was the autopsy report. There are these lacerations, and I think that's what did it. When they said she was beaten, your mother was beaten to death.
Well, take a look at this. Kathleen's sister is also very much against you.
The next confrontation came from a French film company that wanted to make a pseudo-documentary about my sister's murder without my family's cooperation or consent. Michael Peterson would have a movie made that he could pontificate. He could tell everyone, all of you, how incompetent the Durham police and justice system was. He could proclaim this film again his complete innocence. The staircase film was made, and twice episodes were used to threaten and scare Kathleen's daughter and myself. Michael Peterson states in the film, if not for Candace and Caitlin, I would not be here in a courtroom. And in episode 8, filmed in the courtroom, Michael Peterson again clearly says, Candace just can't keep her mouth shut. I don't think I'd be here if she shut her mouth. These statements were threatening to me, and anyone for attorney can replay them on YouTube. And that hurts me and hurts my niece, and we did nothing to hurt you. The correct ending to the staircase is Michael Peterson was correctly charged with murder, and he is pleading guilty today.
That was from the Netflix documentary Staircase, and they say this is all favorable to you, but they certainly included that.
Yeah. They went to Candace numerous times and to Caitlin to interview them, and they didn't want to be a part of it. I have never felt any animosity towards Candace or Caitlin.
Now, Caitlin eventually filed a civil suit against you. Mm-hmm. And what did it allege? Wrongful death.
Wrongful death, right.
And what was the theory of the suit as to how you caused the wrongful death?
Coming up.
You said that never will you plead guilty. Those words will never come out of my mouth, but then you did. So you owe her $25 million plus interest.
And I thought, I'll be damned if I'm going to give her any more money.
Tomorrow, why this teen's teacher
Her mom said, I hate Adriana.
became her guardian.
Adriana told me that she was going to kill herself.
You said, fine, I'll get a beer and just watch you.
It's not like this is said to her on a day-to-day basis. One time this guy comes out of my mom's bedroom.
Is this the one you sent Adriana off with?
She asked to go with him.
She was how old?
I was in 7th grade.
That's tomorrow. Then on Thursday, they're married and in love, but
They are first cousins.
It's disgusting. Tongues down each other's throat.
Kathy might be jealous.
No.
that's Thursday. We now return to the Staircase Mystery.
A multi-million-dollar settlement today with a man who barely has a dime to his name.
Today, Durham novelist Mike Peterson agreed to pay his stepdaughter $25 million. The agreement is the result of a wrongful death suit filed against him.
Peterson's civil attorney says the agreement does not mean he admits guilt. As for Atwater, she points out the settlement in the suit is about more than just money.
Just stopping for a minute to appreciate the value of my mother's life and about the relationships that she had is what's most important.
Now, Caitlin filed a civil suit against you.
Mm-hmm.
And what did it allege? Wrongful death.
Wrongful death, right.
And what was the theory of the suit as to how you caused the wrongful death?
I don't know. I was in prison.
You didn't read the suit?
No, I don't even think they sent it to me. My brother, who was an attorney, called me up. I was in prison in 2005-06. So I'm called to the captain's office, and I'm there, and my brother says, Mike, I settled the civil suit against you. I said, okay. He said, $25 million. And I said, what? And the captain said, no. He said, Mike, you haven't got any money. You're never going to have any money. $25 million, it could have been $25 billion. What do you care? It's done and it's over with. And so that was it. And he said, I've got your power of attorney. I can do what I want anyway. He just went ahead and settled the civil suit, which is now probably, with interest, up to $40 million I owe Caitlin.
Okay, you say he settled it for $25 million while you're in prison, and you say, I was okay with that.
That was almost a joke. Where am I going to get $25 million?
Well, that's not the point. You're in prison for a crime you say you didn't commit.
Correct.
You have appeals going on, and you're maintaining, I didn't do this. I am an innocent man in prison.
Correct.
And somebody calls you and says, oh, by the way, I just stipulated to liability of you causing the wrongful death of your wife and agreed to a settlement of $25 million.
Well,
I'm okay with that?
Well, it was a matter of when all the appeals have been, when it's totally done, and I am not vindicated, I owe her that money. If I had gotten pardoned or if it had been reversed, there would have been no civil suit. I mean, that would have been vacated, the judgment.
So the settlement was contingent upon the exhausting of all appeals.
Correct.
So you've now pled guilty to manslaughter.
So it's over. I owe her the money.
So you owe her $25 million plus interest.
Correct.
What happens to this?
Well, when I wrote the book, I went to Caitlin's lawyer and said, look, I don't have $25 million, I don't have $40 million. The only money I'm ever going to make is off this book. How about I give you half? Let's share it, half and half. I give you the book, it'll be published. No, absolutely not. I wanted the book published, so I said, okay, I'll give everything to charity. And that's why it's there. All proceeds go to charity.
Yeah, it says right on the cover, all profits go to charity.
Any money I make, Caitlin would get. And I thought, I'll be damned if I'm going to give her any more money. So better it goes to the Innocence Project, Save the Children, and the American Civil Liberties Union. Let them have the money.
Well, you said that never will you plead guilty. You said, I will not plead guilty. I will not say that. Those words will never come out of my mouth. I won't do it, no matter what. But then you did.
What had happened in the very beginning, we had gone to them and said, I'll take an offered plea. And the sisters, Kathleen's sisters, said, no, he has to stand up in court and say he committed this murder. He's guilty. I said, no, it's never going to happen. Never, 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 never going to happen. So then 3 years later, after I'm wearing this ankle bracelet for 2 years, and the DA finally came in 2017, and he said, all right, we'll offer you the Alford plea, which I had offered to take 4 years earlier. And I said, okay, but I'm never saying I'm guilty. Alford plea is I'm innocent, but you admit that you might have enough evidence to convict me. And it goes down on your record as a conviction, in my case, as manslaughter. If I hadn't done that in 2017, we would still be getting ready for trial right now. And I said, no, no, no. And my two sons chimed in. My son Todd said, Dad, the people who think you're guilty, they're never going to change their mind. The people who think you're innocent, they're on your side forever. Why fight it? And my other son, Clayton, said, Dad, you're playing at a crooked table. Just pick up your chips and go home. And so I did.
How do you explain to people that still doubt you, who say people do not stand up in court and plead guilty, Alford or otherwise, to the death of their wife if they weren't involved, if they didn't do it?
Coming up.
Did the cameras affect you? Because when I watched you in the documentary, I saw a lot of lie behavior. And I'm thinking, this is so inappropriate.
We now return to The Staircase Mystery.
Mike Peterson will not spend another day in prison. He will enter an Alford plea for voluntary manslaughter, and the case will be closed.
The 73-year-old will not admit guilt, but will acknowledge there's enough evidence to convict him. A manslaughter conviction can carry up to 5 years in prison, but with 8 years already served, Peterson will not go back behind bars.
How do you explain to people that still doubt you, who say people do not stand up in court and plead guilty, Alford or otherwise, to the death of their wife if they weren't involved, if they didn't do it? What do you say to those people?
Well, I don't, because, they're not going to be convinced. But there was an American Bar Association article about that very thing. And the writer said the belief or the idea that innocent people don't plead guilty is nonsense. It happens every single day in courtrooms all over America. In my case, I voluntarily took the Alford plea to end it.
Is that correct as being your full plea arrangement?
Yes, sir. I'm 76. I don't want my children, my grandchildren to be living this forever. Just end it. I don't care. I wanted to get on with my life. I can live with the fact that I didn't kill Kathleen. I know this. Whether you believe that over there, it doesn't really affect my life.
Have your other children ever wavered?
Never, 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 never.
They have no doubt?
Never, 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 never.
And one's here supporting you today?
Correct. Oh, if I, when I took the Alford plea, I said, don't come. They all wanted to, support me, be there. And I said, No, this is not a day of joy or celebrations. Or, forget it, I'll do this.
Do you consider it to be, Mr. Peterson, in your best interest to enter a plea of guilty pursuant to offer, even though you do not admit the fact of your guilt?
Yes, sir.
When you took the Alfred plea and you walked out the courtroom door, did you feel relieved, defeated, victorious, numb? What was your feeling when you walked out and knew it's finally over?
Mostly awful. I just felt awful because it's not what I really wanted to do. It was like losing. I was mostly, pissed at myself for giving in, is what it was, I think.
Did the cameras affect you during this documentary?
No. In the beginning, of course, you're aware of it. It's not quite like a reality show, but they're so ubiquitous. They're constantly. And you trust the people, so therefore you know there's a camera. But it's not anything you're playing to.
The reason I ask is because when I watched you in the documentary, I saw a lot of lie behavior, a lot of behavior that I see when people are lying. And I often saw it when I knew you weren't lying because there were things that were not controverted. And I'm watching you talk about this. That's why I said, did the cameras affect you? Because you were answering questions that weren't asked. You would focus on irrelevant detail ad nauseum to deflect from the issues at hand. I never saw you empathetically emoting about your wife and her being dead. You were joking with the lawyers almost every time you got together with them. And I'm thinking, this is so inappropriate. And I'm thinking, this has got to be alienating the court of public opinion. Because I think people don't realize how far removed from the loss and how much of the grief process has taken place. And that's why I ask you if the cameras affected you.
No, but one of the things I'm sure you more than anybody would be aware of, they were there for well over a year and a half. Hundreds, maybe 500 hours of film. And they cut that down to not even 12 hours, 11 hours. So what you're seeing is what is being presented by the filmmaker.
Is this in the edit? Is it that the cameras affected you? Because your kids describe you as very much caring for Kathleen, being very solicitous of her and deferential to her and really being a devoted husband, which I thought balanced out what at times seemed like callous behavior. The documentary made it seem at times like it was all about you and all about whatever you were thinking, feeling, or whatever at the expense of your wife and your loss. They certainly didn't include a lot about that in the documentary. Would you agree with that?
Well, I've never seen the first 9 episodes. That was released when I was in prison.
You never watched that?
No. And then when I got out of prison, I didn't want to watch it. It was like when my kids would come home from the courtroom and they'd run in to watch court TV, and I'd say, you were just there. And they said, Dad, it's a different show on TV than what that we saw in court. And I didn't want to see that. Did I want to see, me being convicted? Did I want to see my children crying and go through? No, I didn't want to see any of that. So I've never seen it. But I do know the editor real well, and I know she would not have in any way tried to make me look terrible.
You say you knew the editor really well. In fact, you dated the editor.
The staircase mystery continues.
There was no murder, but there was no murder as far as anybody was concerned, even the police, until Dwayne Deaver walked into that house.
Peterson believes Deaver created what he calls outrageous experiments dealing with blood evidence to prove a murder.
What that means is that nothing that happened at the scene once he got there can be trusted.
The FBI fired Deaver earlier this year after his work in other cases came under scrutiny. Peterson believes Deaver's testimony was a critical factor in his trial, although he admits some people will likely never believe in his innocence.
You say you knew the editor really well. In fact, you dated the editor.
Well, Kind of hard to date anybody in prison, but she came to see me many times in prison, and then we lived together when I got out of prison for a while, yes.
Let me ask you this. You agreed to this documentary. I've seen it. I watched it start to finish, all 13 episodes. Do you regret doing the documentary?
I don't know if I would be out today unless it were for that documentary, because what they captured was the entire trial, and they captured the main guy who was the prosecution witness against me, and he lied. He perjured himself, and the experiment was just junk.
Well, in the closing argument, the prosecutor really leaned on Devers very hard.
Oh, absolutely.
Because he himself said a lot of this case turned on Devers' testimony, and then his testimony was called into question because he lied not only in this case, but in many others. And so it was not a big leap then to say that the trial was biased and unfair. You know, one of the things that you wanted to do today was shine a light on the justice system and the prison system. And you are one of those people that believes that this is America and you are entitled to the best defense money can buy.
Right, exactly. And that doesn't always work either.
Yeah, you got an $800,000 legal bill to prove it, right?
Yep.
And you think that's really injustice, because we know there are people without means that the system just devours.
Right.
In fact, you lost by war of attrition, even with your resources, because it got down to the point where you said,
oh, I'm indigent.
You know, and even non-monetarily, you know, we start here at zero, and life expectancy is, you know, 83 in America. And at this point, you're at 76.
Right.
And so all this is behind you. And you've got this much ahead of you. I was listening very carefully to what you said, and the decision was, if you have 6 or 7 summers left, and who knows how many of those will be quality, do you want to spend those fighting a game with the deck stacked against you? You got burned once.
Right.
I can say, as a litigation expert, you've yet to have a fair trial. And you know, you're faced with a choice. I can go home today and never deal with this again, or I can go back into the pit and fight again and maybe go home, maybe not, and it's not going to change anybody's opinion either way or the other.
That's pretty much was it. Right.
And so your point was, it's not like life restored. They're not going to give me back those 12 years of 8 years in prison, all these years of fighting the system, and all the time before, after appeals. They've taken 12 or 15 years, and there's no way you can ever get that back.
No, no.
Does that make you bitter?
We now return to The Staircase Mystery.
A long, sad, storied saga has come to a close. Some are happy, many feel cheated. We're talking about the case of Mike Peterson, one-time novelist, one-time candidate for mayor of Durham.
It's not the ending I wanted. I think you only get those in Hollywood sometimes.
They've taken 12 or 15 years, and there's no way you can ever get that back.
No, no.
Does that make you bitter?
No, no, no. What's done is done. It's like when people came up to me, Mike, wouldn't you feel better if you knew that an owl killed Kathleen? No, she's dead. Would it make her less dead? Is it going to change anything? She's dead.
You don't have a need to know.
I don't need, right. And all I know is I didn't do it. I can live with that.
What was the absolute worst thing about prison for you personally?
In one sense, and it sounds terrible, prison's a lot like war. Sometimes there's some really exciting things that happen, but mostly it's just boredom. I think it was that, which is one of the reasons I did everything possible not to make it boring, because you would see so many guys just consumed and beaten down by prison. It's meant to be. a terrible experience. We should be thinking about rehabilitation rather than making it terrible because they're going to come out worse than they went in. It was just the overwhelming awfulness of prison, this demeaning, dehumanizing experience.
If you could speak to Kathleen today, what would you say to her?
Coming up.
When you walk around now, do you feel marked? Do you feel a sense of shame?
Oh, no. No, I didn't do anything wrong.
We now return to The Staircase Mystery.
If you could speak to Kathleen today, what would you say to her?
Oh, I miss you. I miss you, honey. I miss you. I love you. I miss you. Come back.
When you walk around now, you say you keep a pretty low profile. Do you feel marked? Do you feel a sense of shame?
Oh, no. No, I didn't do anything wrong.
Do you feel judgment from other people that makes you feel like you should keep a low profile?
No.
And if not, why do you?
I guess, again, it's one of those things. I know I didn't do anything wrong, so I can live with this. It's okay. If you want to think that over there, okay. That doesn't really affect me.
What do you want people to know about you that we haven't talked about?
When I got out of prison, I got a check for $55. $55. That was my release check, okay? After 8 years in prison, that's not even $7 a year, less than 2 cents a day. What would I have done with $55 if I didn't have my family, my Social Security, my Marine disability retirement? I don't know. What happens to the rest of them? Well, guess what? They revert right back to crime, and they go back in. So to me, it's just the most self-defeating thing in the world. Our penal system, so many could be saved. They could be rehabilitated. But that is not our focus. And that really bothers me, that we don't care. What kind of a mentality is that?
Well, you know, I always say you have to create meaning to your suffering. Maybe that message is the meaning to your suffering.
Well, I kind of hope that wasn't my mission in life, but if it is, I'll take it. You need to know about these people, and you need to know what prison is like. And so that's what I'm trying to do. That's why, basically, I am here, is to talk about this book, answer any question about anything else. But, hey, take a look at our justice system. Take a look at our penal system. It is really, really terrible.
Well, I think people will. And the book, it's Behind the Staircase. Michael Peterson has written it, and whether you think he's innocent or guilty, all the profits go to charity. If you think you're aggrandizing or enriching somebody you think's a wrongdoer, you're not. You're helping charities, and it has got some very eye-opening reality in it. I can tell you that for sure. So, well done. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for talking to me.
Okay, thank you for having me.
Michael has always maintained his innocence, and his children have stood by him and continue to do so. He wants people to remember Kathleen as a loving wife and mother. I want to give a special thanks to Netflix for the use of their video from the documentary, The Staircase. Now, switching gears, we'll meet a woman who wants to know if 50 is the beginning of the end. We'll have answers for her and you next.
Xin chào mọi người, và tôi đang trên đường đi làm về. Và tôi sẽ chia sẻ với các bạn cái nhược điểm của con CRV. Mà nếu mà các bạn mà chuẩn bị muốn mua thì các bạn có thể cân nhắc. Ưu điểm thì rất nhiều người đã nói rồi. Và thực ra tôi cũng rất thích cái dòng này. Tất cả mọi chi tiết của nó thì rất là ok. Kể cả cái biểu tượng chữ H là cái biểu tượng để vợ tôi cũng tên là có vần H mà, nên tôi rất thích. Tất cả mọi thứ tôi không chê được, tuy nhiên là cái nhược điểm của nó có nghĩa là nó rất là ồn. Nếu mà chị đi trên đường nhựa, đây đường này đang đường nhựa này thì không sao. Nhưng mà cái đoạn đường mà về nhà tôi á, mà để đến chỗ làm á, thì toàn đường bê tông rồi các bạn ạ. Bởi vì là một chiếc xe giảm sóc êm hay không, hoặc là xe có ồn hay không á, thì phải đi trên những con đường mà nó, ví dụ giảm sóc êm hay không thì phải đi trên những con đường xấu. Hoặc nếu mà xe có êm hay không thì phải đi trên những con đường bê tông, con đường xấu. Chứ nếu mà đi trên đường nhựa thì xe nào chỉ giống nhau, đúng không ạ? Thế nên là tôi mới chia sẻ với các bạn rằng là cái chiếc xe CRV ấy, kể cả những bản mới nhất nhé, những bản 2020 này, kể cả nó có các tính năng an toàn. Ví dụ là tự động phanh khi mà gặp mà quá gần đối với những chiếc xe cùng chiều chẳng hạn, hoặc là tự động phanh khi mà gặp chướng ngại vật mà mình chưa kịp phanh. Đấy, những tính năng an toàn. Tuy nhiên là cái tính năng rất quan trọng, một cái rất quan trọng mà Honda vẫn chưa khắc phục được, đó chính là cái độ ồn các bạn ạ. Xe này đã đi đường nhựa rất êm, gần như không có tiếng gì cả, êm như những dòng khác. Nhưng mà để mà test xe thì phải test trên những con đường mà một là nếu test giảm sóc thì phải test trên những con đường mà nó xấu, hoặc nếu mà test độ ồn thì phải test trên những con đường bê tông, hoặc là những con đường mà nó xấu thì mới có thể test được. Đây, đường bê tông các bạn này. Đấy, các bạn có thấy ồn không? Đây, các bạn có thể nhìn tôi cho các bạn nhìn thấy là cái đường này đường bê tông. Đây, yêu cầu máy quay là quay lên phía trước. Đây, nói chung đường về nhà tôi thì là trải qua một con đường bê tông các bạn ạ. Đấy, đây là tôi đang đi tốc độ chậm nhá. Nếu mà đi tốc độ nhanh thì các bạn có thể thấy là đường bê tông và rất là ồn. Đó. Và riêng về dòng CRV này thì không có gì mà phải phàn nàn cả. Tôi rất là thích, ngoại trừ hai điều: một là giá nó đắt, và hai là nó ồn. Đắt là đắt so với tôi thôi, còn chắc các bạn thì nhiều tiền thì nó cũng bình thường. Nhưng mà đối với tôi thì với cái giá đó thì nó đắt. Đấy, rất là ồn các bạn ạ. Đi trên đường bê tông để test cái độ ồn của xe, rất ồn. Ngày nào tôi cũng phải trải qua cái quãng đường này mới đến được cái chỗ làm. Vì vậy là xe rất ồn. Nếu các bạn mà mua thì các bạn lên cân nhắc xem là có thực sự thích không, và nếu cái độ ồn nó như này thì có trong phạm vi cho phép không, mức tiền nữa. Có tôi cũng không chê gì nó, chẳng qua là nó hơi ồn, chắc là ồn hơn so với các dòng khác, ví dụ như Santa Fe, ví dụ như vân vân. Và hôm nay thì tôi bận lên trường nên là thành ra là tôi không ra được video. Tôi làm cái video này để chia sẻ với các bạn về chính cái cảm nhận của tôi. Tôi lái xe cái con xe này cũng khá là lâu, ở trong thời gian dài rồi, và trên mỗi một điều là cái độ ồn thôi, nó hơi ồn. Và xin chào tất cả mọi người, chúc các bạn có thể cân nhắc, và đấy, rất ồn đấy, chúc các bạn có thể cân nhắc và mua được một con xe ưng ý nhất. Và chúc tất cả mọi người có thật nhiều sức khỏe và thành công trong cuộc sống. Xin chào tất cả mọi người.
My next guest, Leela, says now that she's 50, she is really feeling her age. Doctors call it menopause. Leela calls it miserable. Take a look.
Hello, this is Leela, Masters Events. How may I help you? Since turning 50, I've become really hormonal, and I've noticed changes like dry skin, lack of memory, hot flashes, night sweats, lack of libido, mood swings, and fatigue. I work in PR, and I travel every week across the country to different events as my husband's promoter. We were talking about parking the trailer. The hectic schedule that I keep on the road has definitely taken a toll on my skin. And now that I'm experiencing the side effects of menopause, I really notice the effects on my skin and losing its firmness. When I look in the mirror, I see a woman that's aging, and I don't see the youthful girl that I once was. I'm becoming very self-conscious about the fine lines and deeper wrinkles. My hormone changes have made the dark spots even more prominent. Being the busy person that I am, I'm looking for a product that's quick, easy, and that I can take on the road, and that will also bring back my youthful look. If I don't do something now, my greatest fear is I'm going to look like an old lady. My goal is to bring beauty back to this face.
Well, joining me are Leela and beauty expert Shilon Liu, spokesperson for beauty brand number 7. So thank you both for being here. So, Leela, do you feel like you're getting old or just going through one of life's phases?
Since turning 50, I do feel old. I've noticed changes in my hair, thinning, hot flashes that are horrific, and especially the loosening of the firmness of my skin.
Yeah, I don't even remember 50, but Do you feel all this happening because of hormonal changes?
Definitely, and the aging process has taken its toll on me, and I'm just looking for something that will help with my wrinkles so it doesn't get downhill from here.
Right, and while I'm sure you're talking to your doctor about a lot of the changes that you're feeling, we brought Shilon in to help you with some of the changes that you're seeing. So Shilon is a beauty expert. Is there something that she can do?
Oh, absolutely. You know, as hormones change, that means that our bodies will change. We'll have less energy, but when it comes to thinning hair, like you were mentioning, perhaps it's time to look at the products that you're actually using for your hair. So if you're using something like a hydrating shampoo and conditioner, now many of those actually are oil-based, and that can weigh down your hair and actually make it look thinner. So it's time to toss those, and also consider getting rid of your round brush as well. Just flip your hair over while you're blowing it dry, and that'll just give us some natural lift. Now, when it comes to volume, a dry shampoo will work. Just make sure that the color is clear so you can give it that volume without showing any whiteness.
Okay, and what about Leela's concerns for her skin?
You know, during menopause, your body stops making as much collagen, and you can lose some of the fat under your skin, and your skin's elasticity drops as well. And that just makes you more prone to thinning, sagging, and wrinkling. But the great thing is, I always recommend that if you want to prevent that, look for products that really support collagen production. Now, number 7's Lift and Illuminate Triple Action Serum does exactly that. Not only does it support collagen production, but it has 3 clinically proven results. It visibly firms the skin, it evens the skin tone, and in number 7's clinical trials, 89% of women showed a reduction in the appearance of wrinkles.
So how quickly will she see results?
You can start seeing results in as little as 2 weeks. Isn't that fantastic?
Exciting.
So what do you think? 2 weeks, pretty quick, right?
Definitely. I'm really excited about the new serum that's going to help me look like I used to.
Yeah, of course.
Great skincare, it doesn't have to be expensive. You can get the number 7 Lift and Illuminate Triple Action Serum at Target and Target.com for less than $35. And you know what? Number 7 wants to get you started, so they're going to give you a year's supply.
Oh, wow.
All right. Audience, we don't ever forget you, so you're all going home with number 7 Lift and Illuminate Serum. I'd like to thank all of my guests today, and a special thanks to Shilon Liu. If you'd like to be part of our studio audience, the tickets are free. All the information is also on my website. And be sure to follow me on Instagram and Twitter, and also check us out on Facebook as well. And if you haven't already subscribed to my free podcast, what are you waiting for? I mean, I did them, so you need to listen to them. It's called Fill in the Blanks. And if you're fascinated with true crime stories like the one we covered today, don't miss my new podcast series, Analysis of Murder by Dr. Phil. My first installment, called The Killer Thorn of Gypsy Rose, launches this Thursday. You're not going to want to miss that, trust me. We'll see you next time.